Hello guys, this is Bilal Khan and you are watching Simplified Coding. Welcome to a new series by Simplified Coding. We will be learning here how to develop a simple question answer application for Android using Kotlin. I have divided the series into two parts. The first part that you are watching right now will cover the server side part. So today in this video we will learn building REST API using Lumen, the micro framework by Laravel for our project. If you don't know what is a REST API, then I have given a link in the description of this video. You can learn about the basics of REST API from that link. So let's start building our project. So here are the tools that you will need for this project. The first one is PHP Storm. It is a PHP IDE by JetBrains. Though it is not necessary that you have to use PHP Storm. You can use any other IDE, but personally I believe this is the best IDE. The second one is the framework Lumen that we will be using for the server-side codes. The third tool is XAMPP and it will be our development environment for PHP and MySQL. You can also use alternatives of XAMPP if you have any. The fourth one is Postman. It is a REST client. We will use it to test our APIs. You can also use any other REST client if you have any. And finally, we need Android Studio to develop the application. You don't have any alternative for this, so you have to use Android Studio. As I told you, we are going to build a simple question answer application. So the first thing we need is our database model. So this is my database model. As you can see, we have 4 tables: users, categories, answers, and questions. You can also see the relationships of the tables in this diagram. A user can have many questions, a category can have many questions, a question can have many answers, and a user can also have many answers. We have defined the relationships using primary and foreign keys. You can see it in this diagram. So this is our database. Now we will create the Lumen project. For this, make sure your XAMPP is on and Apache and MySQL is running. You also need to confirm one thing, that Composer is installed. To confirm it, you can run the command on terminal. So the command is composer --version. Now it will show you the installed Composer version. If you can't see it, that means the Composer is not installed in your system. So if you don't have Composer, please install it, as it is required to create a Lumen project. You can get the Composer from here. It is getcomposer.org. Now, if you have Composer, we can create the Lumen project. So you have to go inside htdocs if you are using XAMPP, and htdocs is the root for XAMPP. So go to htdocs. Now drag this htdocs to terminal and it will open terminal inside htdocs. Now run the following command. So the command is composer create -project Laravel/Lumen and then your project name. So I'm giving my QA app. You can change your project name if you want. Now write the command and hit enter. Now it will take some time depending on your internet speed. So let it create the project and then we will start coding the APIs. So the project is created. Let's first test that it is working or not. To do this, open your browser and type localhost, then / your project name, which is my QA app, then /public. Now hit enter, and if you are seeing this output, then this means it is working fine. Now we will open this project inside PHP Storm. So open PHP Storm. You can also use a normal text editor or Sublime or Notepad++, but I'm using PHP Storm. So we will click on open, and then we will go to applications, then XAMPP, htdocs, and then we will select our project. Now hit OK, and your project will open in PHP Storm. Now click View, Tool window, and select Project. It will show you the project. Now we will set up a database for our project. Then I will tell you about the directory structure. So first we need a database. So again, open browser, go to localhost/phpMyAdmin. Here we will create a new database for our project. So click on database, give a database name, let's say my QA app, and click on create. So we have the database my QA app. Now come inside PHP Storm and open .env file. Now here we need to put the database as the database name. So the database name is my QA app. Now the database username for XAMPP is root if you haven't changed it, and the password is nothing. Also change this cache driver as array. That's it. Now we have set up a database for our project. Now I will tell you about the directory structure of a Lumen project. You are seeing many folders here, but we have to care about only few. The first one is app. Here we will define the models. Now if you are thinking what is a model, then here is the answer for you. A model in Lumen maps to the database. It also bridges the relationship between tables. It is very easy in Lumen to perform database operations using these models. So basically for our project, we will define four models because we have four database tables. Then we have app, HTTP, and controllers. Here we will define the controllers. Controller handles the flow of the app execution. Controller returns the response for requests. So you can say that we will define our app logic inside the controller. Then we have middlewares. It is actually a middleman between request and response. And we will be using the middlewares to secure our API. The last thing is the migration. So it is inside database and then migrations. Here we will define the database schema. We do not need to write queries to create tables when we are using Lumen. Don't worry if things are getting bounced from your head. We will do everything in detail. Now first we will build the database schema using migrations. For this we need to open terminal. So click on View, Tool window, and Terminal. Now to create a migration file, we have a command in Lumen. So write php artisan. Let me zoom it for you. So we'll write php artisan, then make colon migration, create underscore the table name. So we have users as our first table. Then again table, then double hyphen, create equals to again the table name. So users. Now hit enter and you can see the migration is created. You can see a new file here inside migrations, and this is the migration file that we will be using to define the database schema. Now first we will define all the migration files. So we need four migrations file for our four tables. So the users is done. Make sure you create the migration files in the same sequence I am creating because the tables are connected with primary and foreign key. That's why the sequence is important. So after the users tables, we will create the category tables. So again, we will run the same command. for categories. Then same command for questions. And the same command for answers. So we have all the migration files created. You can see it here. Now inside these migration files, we will define our database schema. So let's start with users table. So inside the method up, you can see the database schema. By default, it has two columns with ID as primary key and auto increment, and two more columns created at and updated at, which is defined by this timestamps. Now we will declare here other columns that we need. So you already have the database design that we have decided. You can see that design to define your schema. So let's start with the user tables. For the user, we have username, password, and email. So here we will write table and then the data type of the column name. So we have string for username. Username, this is the column name, and this is the data type. Now we have text for password, and again string for email. So that's it for users table. Now come inside categories table. So open categories table, create categories table, and here define only a single column, table, string, and category name. That's it. Now go to questions table, and for the questions we have the question, the category ID, the user ID, and that's it. So let's define table, string, question. This is for question. Then table, integer, category underscore ID. This is a foreign key, so it would be nullable, as when we don't assign any category to the question, it will be inside default category, and null means the default category. So it is nullable and unsigned. That's it. Now we have integer user ID, and it is not nullable, as a user will ask a question and we cannot have a question without a user ID. So it will be only unsigned, as we need to define foreign key for these. Now let's define the keys. So to define foreign key, we will write foreign, then the column name that we want to create as a foreign key. So we have category ID. Now we will define references, then ID is a reference on the table name. So table name is categories. That means the ID of the table categories is the foreign key here for this category ID. The same way we will define foreign key for user ID. So again we'll write table foreign, then user underscore ID, references, again ID, on the table name is users. That's it. Now the schema for questions is completed. Now come to the last one, answers. To the answer, again we have user ID, the user who answered. So we'll write table integer user underscore ID, and it is unsigned. Again table integer the question ID. Again it is unsigned. Then again table foreign. We will define the foreign key user underscore ID references, and it is ID on users. The same way foreign question underscore ID references ID on questions. That's it. Now one more column for the answer. So it will be string and the column name would be answer. That's it. We have defined, oops, I forgot to write on here. So we have defined the schema for our database. Now we will migrate the schema to phpMyAdmin. For this, we can run a command which is phpartisan migrate. So again, open terminal, go to view and terminal. Here we will write phpartisan migrate. You can see the migration table created successfully and the tables are migrated. Now open browser and check your database. You will see all the 5 tables inside your database. So we have all the tables. Now we will define the models. So come back to PHP Storm and we will define the models inside app folder. You can see we have one model here by default, which is user. So open it and let's remove everything from here. So remove this as well. Also, we don't need these. So press Alt Enter and remove use statement. And you can delete it as well. I thought it will remove all unused imports by automatically. So we have the user model. Now we will define all models. So copy it, create new class or new file and write question and paste it and change the class name as question. The same way we will create all models. Then we have category, then we have answers. That's it. Now we will define the relationships. So as you know, a user has many questions. So we will come inside user and we will write public function questions. And here we will return this has many and the question model. So it is inside app question, the model for the question. So make sure this and the class name inside question should be same. So that's it. The same way we will define other relationships as a question has many answers. So come inside question and then define again a function here, public function answers, and it will return this has many and app answer. That's it. Now a category has many questions. So come inside category and define here again public function questions and return this has many and it has many questions. That's it. Now we don't need anything for the answer model. Oops, one thing we forget, we have to enable Eloquent. So Lumen has a very interesting feature which is Eloquent, and it will simplify the database operations like never before. So to enable this feature, by default it is not enabled. So to enable this feature, go to Bootstrap. This is the Bootstrap app.php and uncomment these two lines. So make sure you uncomment these lines and it enables the Eloquent. Now we have the models, we have enabled the Eloquent. Now we will define the controllers. So the first controller that we will define is the user controller. So come inside app, HTTP controllers and define a new controller here. So we'll write new PHP file and we will name it as user controller. Now you can see an example controller here. So you can copy it and paste it to the user controller. Now remove these. So we have a controller. Now here we will define all the operations that a user will perform. So what can be the first operation? So it is actually the register operation. A user will register to our application. For this, we will create a function here which is create and it will create a new user in the database. So we'll write public function create and it will take a request object. So we'll write request So we have the request. Now, while we send the request, we must have some validation to the request. So we will create a validator here. So let's create a validator equals to validator and then make. Now here we will write request all, that means all parameter of the request, and here we will define the validations. So we will have username and it is required and it should be unique as well for the table users. That's it. Now password is also required and it is not necessary that password will be unique for every user. Then email, it is required and it should also be unique for every users. That's it. So we have the validations. Now we will check if validator fails. If validator fails, we will return an array and the array would contain error as true. That means we have an error and the message will have validator errors and all. So we are displaying all the errors that has occurred. That's it. Now if the control comes below, that means there is no error. In that case, we will create a new user. Now we will set the username as request input. We will take the request input and we have username. Then user email, again request input and email. Then user password, and we will encrypt the password. So we will create new bcrypt hasher, and we will write make, and we will pass the password. So request input and password. So we have the username, email, and password. Now we will call a method user save, and it will save the user in the database. Now we will return the user that is created, but we will not return the password. So we will call a method unset, and we will pass the user password. So it will unset the password. Now we will return the user. So we'll write return array. In this case, error is false and user is the user. That's it. Now we will define a root for this controller. To do this, come inside roots and web.php. Here we will define a post root. As we are storing values to database, we should use post. So what we will do, we will define a post root. So write app post and then the URL that you want. So it can be create user or anything. Then we will pass the controller. So we have user controller and then at the rate and then the method name. So the method name is create. That's it. So we have the user controller and we have a method name create inside the controller, and we are calling this controller from this root. Now let's test it. So for testing we need postman. So open postman, and we will send a post request. So the URL is localhost / myqa app / public / create user, and the request type is post. Now send the request. Oops, we got an error, and this is a permission error. If you are using a Windows system, then you will not see this error. So we have to define permission for this storage folder. So come to your project folder and open it inside terminal. That's it. Now write the command chmod-r777 and then storage, the folder name, and put sudo above. Now this command will change the permission for this folder, and then our API should work. So give it password as it is a sudo command. So the permission are changed. Now let's try again. So we have another error and it says user controller does not exist. Now let's check the code. We have user controller and you can see we forgot to change the class name. So we have to write user controller here. That's it. Now again test it. And again we have an error called to undefined method make. So let's check what is the error. So we are using wrong validator here. So let's write validator and it should be illuminate, support, facades and validator. Now it should work. So make sure you are importing this. Now let's try again. And you can see the error message which is email field is required. So we have username, password, and let's write the email as well. So we have bilal@gmail.com and again send, and you can see we have the response. A user is created in the database. Let's check the database as well. Open the users table and you can see the new user is inserted. So this is how we create API. Now let's complete our API. Now the other operation a user will perform is log into the application. So we will create a login method as well here. So we will write public function login. Again, it will take request. That's it. Now again we will create a validator, and to make it quick we can copy it from here. So just copy and paste it here. That's it. This time we need only username and password, and we don't need unique. That's it. Now we will check if the user exists in the database or not. So we will write user equals to user, and then where, and we will write the column name which is username and the value. So value is inside request input username, and we will write first to get the value. Now if a user exists with the provided username, so we'll write if count user, that means a user exists with the given username, and else we will return array, and the error would be true, and the message would be user not found. That's it. Now if the user exists, we will match the given password. So we'll write if password underscore verify, and we will give the password which is inside request input. So we have password, and for the second parameter we will pass the user password. So if the password matches with the given password, we will return the user. If not, we will return an array that invalid password. That's it. Write error as true, and the message would be invalid password. That's it. Now again, if the user logs in successfully, that means the password matches with the actual password. We will unset the password as we will not return the password, and we will return the user. So we'll write return array error as false and user as user. That's it. Now we will define a new route inside web.php. We will write app post user login, and we'll write the controller which is user controller @ login. So we have the controller name and the method name. Now it should work. Now let's try login in. So I'll write user login here and send, and you can see the error is false, the user ID is 1 and other user details. Let's try with a wrong password. Send, you can see error is true, message is invalid password. Now let's try with wrong username. You will see user not found. So we have the user login, we have the user register, and one more operation we will perform at the user side is get all questions. So user can get all the questions that he has asked. So for this we will create one more function inside the user controller. So we will write public function get questions. That's it. Now we need user ID. Now we will create question equals to user, and we will find ID, the user ID, and we'll find all questions. Now we will loop through all questions that we got from the database. So we'll write for each questions as question. Questions as question. That's it. Now for each question, we want all the answers count for the question. So in the app side, we will show the question and the total available answers for that question. That is why I'm doing this here. So we will write question answer count equals to, we will count question answers. That's it. Now we will unset. We don't need the answer, we need only the answer count. So we will unset the answer. So question answers. That's it. Now we will return it. Return array. Error is false. And questions are questions. And it is questions. That's it. Now again we will create a new root inside web.php. So we'll write app post get questions and user ID. That's it. User ID. Now right here user controller @ the method name is get questions. So write the method name and that's it. Now try running it as well. As in this case we are getting the values from the database, so we should use the get method. That's it. So this time it is get, and then we have what we have get questions / user ID. So we'll write here get questions /1. Now hit send, and you can see we don't have any questions right now in the database, so we are getting a blank response. So now let's create the other endpoints for our API, and then we can create the application using this API. Now we will create the question controller. So come back to the project, and inside controllers we will create a new question controller. Now again copy it from the example controller. Make sure you change the name. It is question controller. That's it. Now for the question, the first operation is submitting a question. That means creating a new question. So again we will create public function create with a request. That's it. Now again we will create a validator equals to validator. Make sure you choose this one, eliminate /support /vacates. Then make, then request all, and then the validation parameters. So for the question, we should have a question and it is required, and a user ID, the user who asked the question, and it is also required. That's it. Now again check if validator fails, return an array. Error as true, and the message would be all the errors. So validator errors all. That's it. Now if the validation succeeds, we will create a new question. So write question equals to new question. That's it. Now again we will put the question. So write question equals to request input and question, and again question user underscore id equals to request input user underscore id, and an optional parameter is category. So we can write category underscore id equals to request input category id. Now this parameter is optional. We may pass a category, we may not pass a category. So that's it. Now we will save the question. So write question, save, and we will return the save question. So write return array, error is false, and the question is question. That's it. Now again we will define a root for this method. So go to web.php inside roots folder, and here we will create a post root, and it would be create question and the controller name, which is question controller @create. That's it. Now let's test it. Create, it is create question. Copy it. That's it. Create question, and it is a post. Now send. You can see the question field is required and the user ID field is required. So go to body and write a question. Let's say what is the capital of Jharkhand, and the question ID, user ID, it would be, let's say 1. We have only one user in the database. You can also pass a category ID, but that is optional. So let's send, and you can see a question is created in the database. Now check the database, you will see a new question. Now try that route as well. Get questions 1, it is get. Now send. Now you can see we have one question right now in the database that is asked by the user 1. So all the routes are working perfectly. Now for the question, we also need a function where we need to get all the questions. So we will create a new function here, public function get all. Let's create questions equals to question and all. That's it. Now again we will loop through all the questions to add answer count parameter. So we'll write questions as question and question answer count equals to count question answers. That's it. Then we will unset the answer as we don't need answer. That's it. Now return array error false question questions. Now it will return all the questions. We again can create a root, a get root app post get all question controller @get all. That's it. Now let's go to the root get all questions. It is a get root send get all question, not questions. So we have get all question send. Something wrong, we are using post, so it should be get. You can use post as well, but to get the values we should use get. So you can see we have all the questions, which is right now only one. So this is how we create controllers. So that's all for the question controller. You can add or more functions if you want according to the app you want to build. So I'm keeping it simple as this is only an explanation of how you can build an application and an API. So now we will create a category controller, and inside category we will have only one function, which is create category. So copy example controller, create a new PHP file, paste it. Now public function create the same thing, request, request. Then we will create a validator. Make sure this one, make request all, and in this case we have only one and it is required, and the category should be unique for categories. That's it. Now if validator fails, we will return an array. Error is true and message is validator errors all. That's it. Now if the validation succeeds, we will create a new category object. That's it. We will write category name equals to request input and name. Then we will write category save. That's it. Now we can return the category. Error is false and category is the category we created. That's it. Now again create a root for this. So here we will create a post root, app post create category and category controller create. That's it. Now again test it. It is a post send. Oops, we got an error. Let's see what is the error. So oops, I forgot to put a greater than. This should be an arrow sign here. So that's it. Let's test again. You can see we are getting an error that the name field is required. Let's put a name field. Let's say name is general. So you can see the category is created. Let's check the database. You will see a new category here. So that's it for the category controller. And now let's create the answer controller. So we will create an answer controller. Again, create answer controller and copy this example controller and make sure you change the name. It should be answer controller, and then we will define a method here. Now it would be submit. For answer we only have one option, submit. It should be request. Oops, request should be from Illuminate HTTP request and request. Then again we will create a validator equals to validator. Make sure you select this one, Illuminate support facades. Then make, then request all, and then we have the validation parameters. So we need answer and it is required. Then we need user ID. Oops. Then we need user ID, user underscore ID. It is also required. And we need question ID, and it is also required. So we have the validation parameters. Now let's validate. If validator fails, again return an array. Error will be true, and the message would be validator errors all. That's it. Now if the validation succeeds, answer will be a new answer. Then we will set the values. Answer as request input answer. Then answer question underscore ID equals to request input question underscore ID. Then answer user underscore ID equals to request input user underscore ID. Then we will save the answer and we will return the answer. So write return array, error is false, and answer is. That's it. Now let's create a root for this answer. Come to web.php, inside roots folder. Then again we will create a post root, submit answer, then answer controller @submit. That's it. Now let's check it. So let's say submit answer. Now it is a post request. The answer field is required, the question ID is required. So let's say answer, we have question 1, what is capital of Jharkhand? So it is Ranchi. Now let's say question ID is also 1. Send. We need, come to answer controller, and here we should have an underscore, not an hyphen. So we need a user ID as well. So user underscore ID is also 1. Now send. You can see the answer is submitted. Let's check the database. The answers table. You will see an answer here. So it is working fine. So basically our API is complete. You can add more functionality to the controllers if you want more features in your application. But that is it for now to make it simple. Now what we will do is we will send requests to these URLs from our application, and we will perform the insert and read operations. And this is how we are going to build our application. But the problem is, if anyone knows the URL, then he can spam our database, flood with the values. He can flood our database with the values. So this should not happen. So what we will do is we will define an authentication for all the URLs with basic authentication, and for this we will use middleware. So first we will create a middleware. So come to your project. Inside middleware you will see an authenticate.php. Now delete everything. Now here we will define a username and password, and it will act as an API username or password. So let's name it username. Let's name it Bilal Khan. And password, let's name it 123456. So we have username as Bilal Khan and password as 123456. Now every time we will send a request, we have to give username and password that is defined here. So to do this, we will create a function. Let's create a function, a public function handle. Now it will take two parameters. The first one is request and then closer. next. That's it. Now first we will check if the username and password given in the headers of the request matches with the defined username password here. So what we'll do, if we will write request header, now it is php underscore auth underscore user equal to username, and request header, it is php underscore auth underscore pw equal to password. Now if this condition becomes true, that means the authentication is successful. So in this case we will return the request. That's it. Now if the authentication fails, we will create a content as array and we'll put content error as true and we'll put the message as unauthorized request and we will return it as a response, and in JSON format the content and the status code would be 401, which means unauthorized. Now we will add this authentication in every URL. For this again we will go to bootstrap app.php and we will use this middleware. So uncomment it and here we will write authenticate. That's it. Now let's try sending a request again. Let's send a request. Now you can see unauthorized request. We have to give username and password now to make the request successful. So go to authorization and select basic auth here and give username as Bilal Khan and password as the password given, which is 123456. Now send the request and you can see it is working. So we have added the authentication as well. So our API is complete. Some features may be missing that you can complete at your own side, and if I found something missing, I will complete it while developing the Android side. And if you found that something is missing, please leave the comments to tell me what is missing in the API. So that's all for today, guys. You can get the source code of this project from the link given in the description of the video. This was the longest video in my channel so far, and if you watched till the end, then thank you a lot. I know it is really helpful. That is why you watched till the end. So please give me a like, a subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and a share. This was Bilal Khan from Simplified Coding. Goodbye. See you.